What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hustle GPS. Today I'm in Chicago, Illinois, in Old Town at Jameson Sotheby. I'm going to be talking to two of the top real estate agents in all of Chicago, Grilli Murphy and Bobby Grilli. I got a great episode for you guys. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the office.
Nice place you guys got here, man. Nice. So the Grilli Murphy Group, that's where we are today. I would like to kind of rewind a little bit and talk about both your individual paths and how we led to this point, because having your own group within a brokerage is something that not a lot of people even get to.
It's weird because our paths are different, but there is some similarity. So there's not many people in this business that are from the South Side. And so I always say to Brendan, we got to band together like brothers, because a lot of people are either from the city or from the North Side. We're both born and raised in the Southwest suburbs, and both of our fathers are in construction. My dad's in commercial, Brendan's dad's in residential. So we've been around construction, whether that's restaurants, shopping centers, school districts, or single-family homes, kind of our whole life. But I think the way we got into real estate is different. And for me personally, I had no desire to do anything as a career-wise with real estate. I went to college for finance. I was going to get into commercial banking or corporate banking, I should say, and thank God I didn't, because that would not be for me. I fell into real estate back in 2017 in my last semester of college, helping a good friend of mine who had his own brokerage, just doing day-to-day, like basically I was a runner. And one thing led to another. I got into the restaurant business actually out of college for 2 years. And I was doing real estate part-time. And I used to consider work when I would go to the restaurant, and then I would never call the real estate work I had to do. I never called it work. I always said like showings, or I have appointments or something, because it was work, don't get me wrong, but like I enjoyed it. Yeah. And it went fast. So I would work all day at the restaurant, come home, do showings at night, work on weekends. Eventually I ripped the Band-Aid off. I was like, screw it, I'm gonna give myself 2 years. If I don't make a single dollar, I can still maintain the quality of life I have, but after 2 years I'd have to move back home with mom and dad or something. And I knew that I was never gonna let myself do that. Yeah. And the rest is history.
Let's go.
So like Bobby touched on, obviously our paths are similar but quite different. But I think the one thing it kind of goes back to or has a similarity is like the construction background, right? Mm-hmm. So as Bobby mentioned, my dad's been a single family home developer and builder for 35 years now. So out in the southwest suburbs, Homer Glen, and ever since I can remember as a kid, I was obsessed with going out on construction sites. My dad owned a framing company, so all the guys came over from Ireland and, we're working in the business and stuff like that. And I always wanted to be around the guys. I always wanted to see, projects start from a hole in the ground to a foundation, to the house getting framed, to bricks, windows, the whole 9 yards, from start to finish, and see kind of their vision come to life, right? And so post-college, got into real estate. But again, I was very fortunate enough to have really good mentors that, took a chance on me, right? I was a young kid. I didn't really know anything about real estate in Chicago, but I had a wonderful work ethic. And I was willing to learn, right? So Barbara O'Connor was a mentor to me. She was like, listen, real estate is not for everybody. She's like, the first 2 years are going to be the hardest years of your life. You're going to make no money. And she's like, if you stick it out past 2 years, you'll make it. And I was like, wow, this is my second day and this is what you're telling me? Like, there's no chance I'm going to make it, right? Yeah. But because I believed in myself and because I was such a sponge and learning about the industry and almost like obsessing about the industry, I was working 7 days a week, learning all the ins and outs. And, the other mentor in my life was Colin Hepson, and Colin Hepson exposed me to a world of development, right? So I kind of got that taste of, development that I was used to seeing as a kid from my dad. So we represented a lot of builders building single family homes, 6 flats, townhouse projects all over the city of Chicago, right? So for me, it was like I was able to like scratch that itch, for lack of a better term, And then eventually, you know, as we grew that business, we started representing larger scale developers. So we were doing like 40 unit condo buildings. We were doing the sales for and 80 unit condo buildings. And I was sitting in, you know, banking meetings with developers, and we were there as the real estate team. I had no reason to be at that table, right? There was no reason I should have been there, but that experience I learned throughout those years just paid dividends into, you know, where I am today.
Yeah, right place, right time almost.
Oh, 100%.
I think that's awesome. So, just to hit on what you said, you guys had like 80 units. So, like, were you completely responsible for that, or like, how does that? Like, if you're contracted to a building, are they only working with that brokerage or that group, or does that brokerage have allotted 70 units and this one has so and so units? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the company I was at previously was Dreamtown Realty, and Dreamtown Realty had the exclusive listing agreement for all 80 units in the building.
Really?
So,
cool. So is it like a we got units here, whoever can sell them gets them? Like, how does that?
But most of the time, like in the business, you have an exclusive agency agreement with the brokerage name, right? So like in this case, we're Jameson Sotheby's, right? So if we're on a development, the exclusive agency agreement will be between the developer and Jameson Sotheby's. But on that agreement, more times than not, it will name representatives or agents affiliated with Jameson Sotheby's as like the lead agents. So I believe in Brendan's case, what he was saying is like he, amongst a few other agents from Dreamtown, while there were 500 some agents in the Dreamtown umbrella, not all 500 are the developers representatives, if you will, right?
Okay.
So they're like the, you know, the 5 or 4 or 6, whatever people that are really the main point of contact for the development.
Gotcha.
And then from there, if a buyer comes in with their own agent from any brokerage, mom and pop brokerage, ABC, whatever, then there's, you know, the buyer agent commission that comes involved and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because you learn as you know, kind of scale that business, right, and take on larger projects. It's a difficult process. It's like riding a roller coaster, right? You announce the project. There's always just a burst of people through the door that want to learn what's this new building, call it, right? What's this new condo project we don't have anymore. So you want to capitalize on some of those sales, right? So then you're taking the high here. So then you start to hit a little bit of a lull. Then they put the shovel in the ground. Then they break ground, right? So you're trying to capitalize again on these like almost roller coaster ride throughout the process, right?
Yeah.
Then there's also, you know, opportunities where people sign contracts, call it, you know, a year or 2 years out, right? So there's drop dead dates on those contracts. So if the building's not built by, call it November of, you know, the following year, the person hasn't out on the contract. So, you know, there's definitely stress throughout the project. There's a lot of moving parts. I could probably talk about it for a lot longer. But I mean, there's a lot more than just, you know, opening the doors of a sales center and, you know, saying, hey, here, come buy one of these.
That's super insightful because honestly, I think from an outside perspective, all I know about real estate is Netflix shows. So I'm completely ignorant to what it is on the ins and outs, but I'm also fascinated by it because I think that kind of what you were bringing up earlier is that like those shows, they just highlight, big penthouses and you make a lot of money and do this and do that and there's meetings and like they're always going to a drink with a client or something like that. Like it seems very almost
the highlights seem fun.
The highlight, yeah, exactly. But it's only the highlight reel.
So the behind the scenes stuff is that's where it's
the behind the scenes. Like how do you even get to that spot, or how did you get to that point, or you know, like there's so many different levels to it. So I really resonated when you said roller coaster because that's a more realistic, I guess. Analogy of what not even just real estate is, but life in general. Like
100%.
Nothing ever is stable. Like life's gonna hit you, it's gonna hit you over and over
100%.
again. Like there's so many things you gotta deal with and adjust it. So I think that was a really good thing to bring. Walk me through a day in the life of what a real estate agent does. Keep it very base level. Like what can a real estate agent expect on a normal day?
I mean, a typical day for me per se is I'm up between 5:30 and 6, at the gym between 7 and 7:30. I'm at the office or an appointment or my office at home by 9. And from there on, it's all over the place, right? Whether it's appointments, closings, walkthroughs, meetings, stuff like this. My biggest thing is like whatever I can do to continue to get my name out there, put a face to a name, and familiarize myself with either different parts of the business, different people in the industry, different people in general, just to continue marketing is kind of my goal on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing behind some of what you're talking about is essentially winning the day before you get to the office. Right? So, you know, having Bobby as a partner, you know, making sure we hold each other accountable, right? Bobby gets up at 5, I'm up between, you know, 4 and 4:30, right? Because I know I got to get up early, I got to get organized. I have 2 little guys, a 5-year-old and 11-month-old. So like for me, that's non-negotiable to get, you know, Liam up at 6:30, Rory up at 7, you know, I'm out the door at the gym at 8 o'clock working out. So it's kind of getting those, certain things done ahead of time, and making sure that, you do win the day.
Yeah. So yeah, just like you said, winning the day is early, building that momentum to have a successful day getting forward. So kind of what I'm getting from both of you is that like day to day is pretty unpredictable to an extent. Like you can have like a call with this client person, but at any given time a listing could show up, or a buyer could call you that they're interested in a property or something like that. So how do you juggle the uncertainty, or how do you feel about the uncertainty? Like, is that something that gets you going? Because I feel like being in real estate, being an independent contractor, there is a lot of unpredictability to it. And a lot of people don't know how to deal with that. A lot of people don't know how to deal with the stresses that come with that. So I think that kind of keeps them in a more, they thrive more in a structured environment. So what keeps you guys going? Or how do you feel about having such an unpredictable environment?
I think for me per se, and I think you'll agree with this, like you have to get uncomfortable being you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? I think, 2017 was the first time in my life I've ever came off a salary, right? So for, call it 8 years now, you eat what you kill, right?
Yeah.
So, pushing yourself and making sure you're time blocking, you're lead generating, you're following up with past clients, you're doing all the things possible, right? If you plant a bunch of seeds into a garden, but you don't take care, nurture, water those seeds, you're not gonna have a garden.
Yeah.
Right, so I think that's really where it's pretty important.
Yeah, I think too, what you touched on there, Avery, is like there's a lack of structure, so much unpredictability, but it's those who succeed in this business are disciplined and create structure, right? So like when you have a normal 9-to-5 job, you got to be there by 9. You probably get emails, whatever, somebody, your employer, your teammate, your team lead, whatever, provides you with the structure and tells you what you need to do, or you just know from repetition, whatever, right?
Yeah.
In this business, no one's telling you that. No one's giving you the key. It sounds great on Netflix and what these shows predict, but in reality, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that contributes to the success that you see, right? So it's not just showing up on closing day, getting your paycheck and going home. There's hours upon weeks, even months and years that lead into establishing the connection with the client, staying front of mind, right? Every client wants to feel that they are top of mind. But when you are one person juggling 20, 30 clients at a time, how do you make all 30 of them feel like they're number one in your mind? Because there's only one spot, right? Yeah. So having that structure helps staying front and center with your current clients, past clients, future clients that you don't even know about, whether that's through social media, being in the office, networking, all that kind of stuff. So it's creating the structure and then getting accustomed to the structure that works.
Again, you can plan as best as possible, and that goes out the window.
Totally.
So like driving in here, for a perfect example, today we have this, this scheduled, right? Mm-hmm. My day for the most part was wide open, right? Yeah. Now we have a 12, I got a 1:30, a 2, a 3, you know what I mean? And then meet somebody again at 3:45, right? So like that was all not planned, but that all kind of occurred between 8 and 10 a.m. today. Yeah. So things change on the fly.
That's good, man. I think that the adaptability is something that you really have to either learn, a skill you have to learn, or something you have to already have, for sure. Be ingrained in you.
You gotta be flexible. There are things that are non-negotiables.
Yes.
You hold firm on that.
No, absolutely. You guys are under the brokerage of Jameson, Sotheby, correct? How do you get acquired by a brokerage? And how does an agent, say it's like a new person that wants to get into real estate, do they reach out to brokerages directly? Do they have to have like a resume of like, this is who I am? Does it depend on like the status of that brokerage that they're trying to work with? Like, how does that work? What are the dynamics there?
So I think it's a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brett, and chime in. I think it's kind of a mixture of all the different options you just said, right? Okay. Either you've got some brokerages that are all about growth and numbers, right? So anybody out of, they would say fresh get their license, they can go work at any of these brokerages. Some brokerages are more what I like to call like exclusive. So they would want either somebody who, and I consider this as Jameson Sotheby, so either you have a reputation or a history, resume, if you will, of consistent sales volume, or you are referred by an agent in the office that says, hey, I did a deal with Grilli Murphy at Dreamtown. I think he'd be a great fit over here. And then, there's an interview and a whole get to know process. Or like in this case, now that we have our own team here, our own group, if let's just say my cousin wanted to get into real estate and he gets his real estate license. Now he's got zero experience, he's got zero sales on record, none of that, but he wants to work with me as his older cousin, mentor, whatever. We can bring him on as like through like a mentor program or bring him onto our team, so long as we, fulfill the requirements and or the, the coaching aspect of, training this young individual, right?
Yep.
Because ultimately, whether it's, you work as a solo agent or you work on a team, you're under an umbrella of a brokerage. And whether that's, Avery's real estate firm or Jameson Sotheby's or At Properties or Compass or whatever, you are a representative of that bigger brand.
Do you guys have a team underneath you? Are you recruiting agents to come underneath you right now, or is it kind of just you two grinding right now?
So I would say it's a hybrid. This is kind of evolving, right, on a daily basis. We have 2 brokers currently that work underneath us on the team, or under the umbrella, I should say.
Yeah.
But we're definitely open to, expanding and adding more. But, we want to make sure that we set the right foundation, right, before we start to expand and grow. Because if we don't have the right people in the right places, we would set up the new brokers who came on board up for growth.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to be a daycare, right? I'm not trying to babysit. So like, I don't even care. I mean, I care about obviously experience, but I look at, and Brendan's the same way. If we're gonna hire somebody, I want to see that individual has things that can't be taught: hustle, hard work, motivation, things of that nature, right? I'll teach them the real estate process.
And if you bring that to the table, we will teach you everything that you need to know.
Pay attention, guys.
Somebody who wants to hustle and is dedicated and disciplined, motivated, whatever, you name it, I'll pick them up every morning at 7 a.m. and come right along with me for 2, 3, 4. I don't care how long it's going to take for them to get the hang of it.
Yeah.
If I have faith and believe in that individual, that the things that really can't be taught are already instilled in them.
Right now, so hustle is a broad term, right? And obviously, I love the term hustle. I think hustle is what's kind of really gotten me everything I've had in my life, and I honestly always feel like I could turn it up a little bit more. But in regards to hustling inside of real estate, what are you looking for? Like, just to give somebody that wants to get into this space or is interested about the space, what does that look like in real estate? So you want a go-getter, you want a hustler, somebody that's motivated. Now, can you give me like actions that will prove that to you? Like, what do you the actual action that you're looking for? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of touch back what Brendan said when Barbara O'Connor told him 2 days after he first started, is like, you're gonna work your tail off forever, but for the first 2 years and make hardly any money.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, for me to define somebody as a hustler is somebody who's readily available, that's willing to, if I need help with, whether it's a showing, whether it's putting a lockbox somewhere, whether it's meeting an appraiser, whatever, somebody who's, readily available to help, somebody who does or fulfills those things and asks questions because they're genuinely curious to know why this or why that and learn more, right? Sure, I could pay anybody, to go do a showing for me and put a key in a lockbox and open the door and sit there and stare and lock it up and leave. It doesn't
be an assistant.
No smarts to do that.
Yeah.
But to have somebody who's actually like, hey, so-and-so, can you go and do a showing for me at 123 Main Street? Okay, they're going to figure out what is 123 Main Street, how much is it listed for, what does it mean, like what are all the ins and outs, show up on the property, get there early, turn the lights on, open the doors, all that stuff, and then speak fluently. So when I witness that or I see that, even if I'm on a showing with a buyer of mine and the seller's agent has an assistant or has a team lead or teammate that's just helping out, I notice that right away and I think, all right, that person may be a good person to circle around with a year, 6 months, whatever, and see if they're interested in coming join our team.
Let's go.
Right.
Let's go. Yeah, anything you want to add?
It's funny because there's not like a set job description that we're looking for, right? So certain times somebody might, like Bobby said, walk in on a showing and be representing a buyer or a seller, and all of a sudden you hit it off with that person, right? Like I never thought, when our buddy Ryan Frederick, a bunch of guys, we were out having beers and burgers one night, and he was like, you gotta meet Bobby Grilli. I promise you gotta meet him. He's a great guy, he knows his stuff. He would be a great asset to your team. Yeah. It took me 10 minutes into sitting at Gibson's at a round table in the bar to realize, like, okay, I like this guy. I could see a lot in him. He's smart, he knows what he wants to do, he's very much motivated, driven, like has all the intangibles to be successful. Yeah. And also I saw a little bit of myself in him, right? Like I was in his shoes, right? I at the time I was married, I had Liam, right? He was, dating his now wife at the time, right? And it's funny how like I feel like I'm just a few years ahead of him. But at the same time, I'm learning every day from him, right? And I think that's one thing too, is just really being open-minded and willing to learn from experience, because when you go through the real estate class as a whole, you sit there, it's 2 weeks, you get this book, they teach you all this
95% of it is garbage.
95% of the stuff.
Test, but that's about it.
I mean, I think that's like with every industry.
Yeah. 95% of the stuff that they teach you, you're never going to use again. And sure, you need to know some of it, you know what I mean, to do that. But
it doesn't teach you how to be a real estate agent.
It's all experience. You have to cut your teeth in the field. You have to learn how to overcome objections. You have to learn how to sell. Like, what type of selling? Is it a hard close? Is it a soft close?
Yeah.
These are all things that you kind of learn on the fly and evolve with experience.
Yeah. And you're only going to, like you said, Brendan, you're only going to learn how to sell by selling. Now, doing it on your own, you'll likely learn less or learn slower because you won't know what mistakes you're making. So you get involved with a mentor, such as what Brendan was talking about. And even Brendan's been a huge mentor to me, following him, working alongside him the last almost 4 years now. I pick up on things that he says that I don't even realize I know or I don't know, and then now I speak fluently to my clients about it, right? And one more thing I want to touch on too, with like the finding the right teammate, if you will, is you have to be a self motivator, and you have to sustain. Like, everybody wants to go 100 miles per hour, but it's not sustainable in moderation and longevity, right? Like Brendan knows, I preach this all day long. I put some on my Instagram story about it today. Consistency is so important in this business. Yeah. You don't have to, and we refer to it in the game of baseball, like, you don't have to hit a grand slam every single time you get at the plate. Just get on base. And 3 times on base, the next time you hit that grand slam, now you get, you know what I mean? Like, that's how I look at it. Is not everything's gonna go, like you said, the roller coaster of life. Not everything's gonna go exactly how you plan. How can you bounce back, stay motivated, keep yourself motivated, right? You don't have a boss that's put a fire under your ass and say, hey, oh, you gotta do this, like, no, you have to find it within. And then it's like, to me, it brings out like the competitive nature that I've had since I was a kid playing sports. And I know both of you are even more sports driven than I am, but that's what like fuels me on a daily basis. Yeah. Whether it's a $4 million deal or a $40,000 parking spot, I want the deal.
I like that. Y'all getting me fired up right now. So I definitely want to do it. But I think I want to touch on it, kind of give you guys flowers and highlight that your dynamic is dope. Like, I can genuinely tell that you guys are genuine guys and that you genuinely care for each other, and that you guys push each other. I think that's so important. Is finding somebody that's going to help you with your weaknesses and help you develop your strengths as well, and just kind of grow together. It reminds me of the saying, like, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, you got to go together. Right. You know what I mean? 100%. Okay, guys, for the people that don't know, what are the different types of real estate?
So you got really residential and commercial are really the two umbrella terms of both. And they kind of speak for themselves, right? So shopping centers, gas stations, malls, industrial, industrial's in that too. Kind of all fall into the commercial realm. Okay. And then any living quarters, if you will, is considered residential. However, if you get into like multi-unit homes, I think it's 5 units or more is considered commercial. Correct. So like I own a 3-unit building on the south side, that's considered residential. But the 6 flat that's on the corner, around the corner from here, would be considered commercial. It's still living quarters, but it's more than 5 dwelling units. How that's classified, or why it's classified that way, I don't exactly know. That's just what it is. But like a large apartment complex that's all residential, units, doesn't constitute as a residential real estate per se. It's technically commercial.
But for a newer agent, how important would you say is specialization? Like, should they focus on one aspect of real estate? Should they focus on maybe it's just purely residential, or do you think it's important to kind of diversify and get your feet wet in different areas so you can get a more, I guess, complete understanding of what it is to be a real estate agent?
I think it's so important to diversify early, right? And I think it's very important to join a team and learn from those who have experience, as we touched on. I mean, the experience is something you learn just in the field, right? Yeah. So joining a team that does apartment leasing, joining a team that helps buyers and sellers, joining a team that does some new construction sales, joining a team that does some multifamily sales, right? That's going to set you up for success, homes, right? So I think you really kind of cut your legs off if you try to specialize in something early, because you might think you love something, right? And then you start into it, and 6 months into it, you're like, oh my God, what did I do? I absolutely hate this, right? Yeah. So I think spend that year, 2 years, kind of really getting to know the industry is to the best of your ability, and then kind of stepping into that specialty.
I like that.
Yeah, I think too, to further that, so to further Brendan's point, like, sure, you get your real estate license, you could do so much with that, right? So surrounding yourself with a team that's not only successful but does all different kind of avenues allows you to at least dabble in a little bit of each to understand like what's more of your liking. And then, I wouldn't say to diversify or dabble your entire career, because then you'll be a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? But getting that initial experience for 2, 3, even 5 years, like doing a little leasing, buying, selling, land acquisition, development, multi-unit, tear down, whatever, figure out what drives you, right? Because it all kind of goes back to what's going to motivate you, what's going to wake you up in the morning. And sure, the paychecks can be nice, but you got to work for those. So if you're not working, you're not getting paid, and then you lose motivation, and then you fall to the wayside, right? So what is it that's going to keep you hungry, keep you motivated, and keep you learning? Because the day you stop learning, the day you start going back.
I want to say something that's almost unique to real estate in the sense of a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but a lot of different industries, like you do want to learn everything, but you kind of want to develop your skills like foundationally at one specific thing. Yeah. But you guys are telling me like, no, I need to learn how to do this. You need to learn how the business works of real estate. You need to work.
Yeah, you want to be able to take advantage of essentially any opportunity you get, right?
100%. One of you or both of you, can one of you explain to me the dynamics of a buyer and a seller? Like the differences between working with the buyer and working with the seller, like your approach, your mindset, and like the relations.
I would say, the approach is very similar in the sense that I'm sometimes maybe too honest. I want to sleep at night with both eyes closed, and I don't want to have to worry while looking over my shoulder. So
but that's us playing the long game.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time, is playing the long game and making sure that like we are doing what's best for our clients.
Yeah. Like talking about buyers, right? I want to, ideally, we do a whole buyer consult. Like I want to share my expertise and knowledge of what's going on and the market that they're interested in to kind of make sure that we're all really, the biggest thing that Brett and I do a really good job of is educating, whether it's a seller on what the market conditions are, whether it's a buyer, whether it's a renter, whether it's an investor, whatever, providing education and factual based knowledge. This isn't just my opinion or Brennan's opinion. This is our opinion based on factual data that we're providing you with that you may have a different opinion on, but the facts are the facts, right? So using that same kind of method, whether you're working with a seller or a buyer, I think helps just the all-around success of the transaction. And
it also eliminates the surprises, right?
Yeah.
There's no surprises throughout if you do explain the process from start to finish.
I want to get into what it's like actually selling a house, because you can get to the finish line, but when it's time to show a house, I guess, what is your guys' approach? Is it different depending on the listing? Is it different depending on the client? Do you have the same method? So, like, is there a process to showing a listing as well?
Well, I think the technology and the internet has completely changed the way we do business. For the last 11 years since I've been in this business, the buyers now have access to so much information. So by the time they come and see the house, they already know room dimensions. They know exactly all the ins and outs. They know the specifics. They know the location. So the buyers are that much more educated based on the information that's available to them, right? So I always say, if we have a new listing, like I'm so OCD as far as like pictures and the quality, because essentially that's the first showing you have with these buyers now. Sure. Again, being the importance of the internet, right? So by the time you get in there, for the quote unquote first showing, even though it's essentially the second showing, you have to be prepared. You have to know the taxes. You have to know all the ins and outs. When the house was built, what improvements have been done. Yeah. If it's a condo association, you have to know, the ins and outs of the building. Has there been any, major repairs and stuff done? So you just I just think with the way the internet and the business is trending, like there's so much more preparation that goes on behind the scenes than just making sure the lights are on, doors are unlocked, play a little music, burn a candle. Yeah.
Now, how long does it typically take you to prep before you show a listing? Like, is it something you can do? I got a couple hours before, I can go over it before I walk in there, or is it like I'm doing my homework the night before, or a couple of days before?
So when you say show a listing, you're saying like if we walk into a home with a buyer, or we're working with a seller?
No, not with a seller, because a seller pretty much knows it. But if like I'm showing it to a buyer, a potential buyer, this technically meets all the needs they want. They want a 3-bedroom, they want a certain amount of square feet. It meets it on paper, but like just to highlight, okay, we got marble countertops, we got we got an amazing chandelier fixtures, stuff like that. Like, how do you have to do your research, and how much research do you do before you show?
So at the end of the day, there's really no one size fits all script. Things like they know a lot of the details because of what's online. What information can we provide to them that's maybe not immediately in their face? Yeah. So, how old are the age of the appliances? How old is the roof? What is the school district like? What did this house sell for, when the sellers bought it, what have they done since then? What has the neighborhood done in appreciation year over year? What are nearby homes that have sold? Does this justify the home price? My goal is to provide as much information to the buyer so that they can encompass all of this information while seeing the house.
Yeah.
And I think something we can add to the table just through relationships and connections that we have is sometimes, when we do these buyer consults, right, we obtain so much information from these clients and we extract truly what's important to them, right? And then we prioritize, because you can't prioritize everything. No house is ever going to be perfect. You know what I mean? My wife and I are building a house right now, and there's probably 4 or 5 things that I would have changed already, right? But the foundation's in the ground, we're already framing the house, there's nothing we can do about that, right? So nothing's ever going to be perfect, right? But a lot of clients have this idea of this like brand new, bright and shiny thing, and a lot of times, based on the information we get, we might find the house, right? And it might not be perfect right now, but walking through that house, hey, what if we change the floor color? What if we,
Paint the cabinets.
what if we, demo the kitchen and put in a brand new island, new countertops, change out X, Y, and Z things. And a lot of times you see them in the house, and then their wheels start to turn.
I was about to say.
Wow.
So you're saying that while you're showing them, like, okay, but we can do this to it. Like, it looks like this now, but this isn't what it has to be.
Yeah, correct. What Brandon was saying earlier is a lot of people lack vision.
Yeah.
Correct.
They want the low price tag.
Yeah.
And they've got this like, or they have the vision, but they have no idea how to attain it and what obstacles can come into play or costs associated.
Yeah.
I've got 30 grand, I want to gut my house. Good luck.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to happen. You may get a bathroom and maybe a kitchen done if you go.
So that leads me to my next question, right? What is your process with that? How do you go about it? And what is an experience that you've gone through with that?
Every situation is different, right? Because I tell my clients, like, I'll be in the driver's seat, you stay in the passenger seat, let's put together a strategy, right? Like, okay, the most you can pay is $700, the house is listed at $700, but you don't want to pay $700 if you don't have to. Okay, based on nearby comps, I can justify $670. All right, it's been on the market for 2 months. Okay, let's start at $650, but I set the expectation, like, expect to pay X. Okay, obviously we hope to get it for less, expect to pay X. There's also times where, like, I've told my clients, like, guys, you're overpaying for this house. And they're like, I don't care. I want. So, I've had times where sellers are way out of line, and sometimes you have to like approach as a buyer's agent. You have to almost like bring to the seller, help them understand why their home is overpriced in a way that's not disrespectful or that's offensive. But again, at the end of the day, we all have a common goal here. My clients want to buy the house. You want to sell it. So where can we find a price where everybody's happy?
Yeah.
Because you don't want a buyer to feel like he or she's overpaying, and you don't want a seller to feel like they're taking a haircut.
Yeah.
Because that more often than not leads to some kind of A, disgruntledness, but B, opportunity for the deal to fall through.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to work for 30 days only to find out on the 31st day the deal fell through and now you work for nothing. Right?
You guys could go back and talk to your younger self at the beginning of your career. What would you tell yourself then?
Personally, I would tell myself start sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I got into it my senior year of college. Didn't, and I don't want to say didn't believe myself, but it's a 100% commission-based job, right? So, like, the sooner you get in, I think the better.
Yeah.
And I think, it's a loaded question, right? Because I think there's a lot of things you learn throughout the process. There's so many mistakes that I had made, but I think the one thing that goes back to is like trusting the process, right? Most of the times, especially being in a full commission type job, you need to make that money now, right?
Sure.
But if you do the right things and put the right processes in place, you'll have multiple clients, right? So you won't necessarily have to rely on that one transaction. So kind of trust the process, believe in, something bigger than yourself, and be willing to make mistakes and learn from them.
Let's go. I think that's great advice. Okay, so to wrap this up, the last thing I like to do is to do a game of this or that. So I got a few questions I'm gonna ask that's related to real estate, but it's also just kind of personal questions again to show viewers a different side of you. So let's get into it. Okay, first one, a condo or co-op?
Condo.
Both of you condo? That was easy. Any reason why, or just condo?
Cost, control.
There we go.
Yeah, the only benefit, condo for sure.
Yeah,
I think co-ops are kind of a dying thing in Chicago. They're very popular in New York and whatnot, but in Chicago they're very expensive.
I like it. Highlight the differences between two different markets as well. I like it. City or suburbs?
City.
City.
I mean, I live in the suburbs,
Yeah,
but I mean, we
right.
spent a long weekend, like the St. Patrick's Day weekend in the city, and it was killing me. I didn't live here. I love the action. I mean, we plant roots in the suburbs, right? And I think life's a little simpler for my wife and kids up there, but like, I need that every day.
You get
so
that
I drive down every
yeah.
single day because I need that fast-paced life.
Yeah. You need to see other people getting after it. I think that's important. Would you rather represent the buyer or the seller?
Seller.
Seller.
You only got to sell one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think right now my response would be buyer.
Okay.
Because I'm so like anal and OCD. The second I have a listing and it's on the market, until it sells, I'm like, why? Why is it selling? Is it my fault? Is it, but what? Do I got a bad product? But I'm like 100 million questions in my head.
Oh yeah.
But with you, again, you represent a lot of first-time buyers, right? So like,
Yeah,
there's
I
something to
enjoy
be
the
said about the
process.
process and
Yeah.
seeing the success or that joy of people when they finally close on that house, right? Like this dream of theirs, the American dream, is officially obtainable and done.
I don't really necessarily have a preference one or the other, but I would say I in my past I've represented more buyers than sellers, and I think that's just naturally my age being in the business.
Yeah. Okay. Would you rather sell new construction or historic property? Something more modern or something more, like vintage, traditional?
No, that's a great question.
I think I would say historic vintage.
Historic vintage. That's
Yeah.
all. I like
Because a lot of the new construction stuff, while it's fantastic, and again, it just depends on like price point and different levels, it gets so repetitive.
Redundant.
When you have something like
They're not building the character.
yeah, I hate
You're not
that.
getting archways with brick and
That's what I'm
exposed
saying.
timber beams. Like you're just not getting that.
Why do you think that is? Do you
Cost of construction.
Yeah.
When you're
Cost.
very much limited to what you can build and what's trendy in the market. And again, I would say a lot of developers, from the standpoint of like, it's a lot easier to rinse and repeat versus recreate the wheel, right?
Yeah.
We just spent 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we were in New York for 24 hours. I mean, every building is so different.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so much different character in New York City. Like, I fell in love with it immediately. So, it's not often we get to kind of walk into some of these properties that are truly like unique, and you're like, wow, that's awesome.
So much to appreciate. Okay. More on a personal note. Cubs or Sox? We're both Chicago guys. Cubs, even though you're from the South Side.
Yeah, that was weird. That was the first time, like, you told me you were a Cubs fan. I was like, I don't get it. I'm a Sox fan.
Sox, let's go.
That's Southside roots, and I mean, we've through good and bad and stuff like that, they're my team.
All right. Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan. No question.
I mean, Chicago guys.
I can't believe Kerry actually said that.
Disrespectful to even compare the two in the same thing.
Basketball is
That's crazy. You don't think they're in the same conversation? No.
I just think Michael Jordan's the ultimate winner.
I think
Ultimately,
I do too.
there was nobody. I mean, he was light years ahead of everyone else. And you ask all the basketball minds too, the veterans, the guys that did it before Jordan.
Yeah.
They all say Jordan anyways.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. LeBron's done amazing things. He's grown the game. It'll be interesting to see who's that next.
LeBron is arguably one of the greatest athletes ever.
I agree.
He is a specimen of a human. I just biased to Chicago, but from a basketball perspective, Jordan on that.
Hot dogs or pizza?
Ooh, fuck, that's a good one. I'd go hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
Yeah.
I thought it was such fucking bad meat.
It
I'd
is.
probably
Yeah,
get-
but if I eat pizza, like
I get
especially during summer, I'm sweating walking.
Yeah, but I probably get pizza because you can get so many different kinds of pizza.
That's true.
You can put different condiments on your fucking hot dog, but it's still a hot dog.
Yeah, no.
And it's never filling enough. So yeah, 4 hot
You
dogs.
gotta have it, and then you just feel like a pig after that.
Yeah, literally.
Those shits are good though. Yeah. Would you rather do a hole-in-one at the Masters or hit a game-winning buzzer beater in the NBA Finals?
Hold on at the Masters. I don't give a shit about basketball.
Okay. I like it.
I did lose a lot of lust with basketball, like post Jordan era and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
the Bulls haven't been great, but I would say, I would absolutely hit all one of the Masters. I think it would just be iconic. Even the opportunity to play at Augusta National.
The
like,
Masters is, you don't even have to be a golf individual and you know how like prestigious and iconic the Masters tournament is.
Yeah.
To have that on your tool belt, on your resume.
Yeah.
Plus you'd be amongst, like essentially everybody hits a game-winning shot in basketball, right? Like one of the last
Well,
shots.
not the end.
No, but there are, I would say there's more people that hit game-winning shots than hit home runs in
I
Masters.
would
So
agree.
the group of, your partners, if you will, is far less than those in basketball.
Yeah. No, I agree.
More exclusive.
I agree. Well, guys, thank you for agreeing to come on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think we're
I
getting a
love what
lot
you're
of
doing.
knowledge, man. Thank you so much. And guys, that is Hustle GPS episode 2, and I appreciate you guys for joining in.